guys, so welcome back to the channel. I am so glad to see you. I'm Phoebe, and if you haven't seen any of my videos before, please have a look if you like this one. Now, today I'm just going to talk about the depression voice. Now, for those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, this is basically the voice of self-doubt. It's what I would call it if everybody was neurotypical. It would be the voice that came up when you made a really hard decision and you're not 100% confident with your choice. It's the voice that comes up if you feel guilty about something, or that tells you to apologize. Now, that's all well and good, and it was really helpful evolutionarily, because if you didn't apologize, or you were super horrible to whoever, then potentially you were going to be the guy that got left on the deserted island. Or you would be the kind of person that would get guillotined. You know? It's not great. So the little voice tells you to adjust your behavior. That's all well and good. However, we no longer really live in a world where you're going to be guillotined or you're going to be left on a deserted island. Still, we still need to fit in and make sure that we care about other people. You're allowed to be as unique as you want. It's just about whether you're doing something that's going to really impact others in a negative way. We all need that voice. However, the media has made it so much worse. Now, instead of just thinking about, wow, that person really hates me because I did this thing, I should apologize, it's like, I'm not gonna fit in because I don't fit this very, very specific gender-rolled creation of some random advertising company. It means that if you make even the smallest mistake, you're gonna obsess over it for ages. This kind of happens because our bodies are in a much higher state of stress than we were all the way back then. And that stress isn't like stressing over a project, although that does contribute to it. It's stress like sensory stress. So now we're having a lot more louder noises. We're having cars. We're going to have machines going on all the time in the background. You've got this stuff. Secondly, you've got lights. Lights change how your brain works because you're used to having a circadian rhythm, which is all about when the sun goes up and the sun goes down. And it changes how your body lives. There's a whole bunch of sleep studies on that. You should look them up. But it's all sorts. It's lights. It's your phone, which is blue light, and it really stimulates your brain, which is great. Except when you need to go to sleep or you need to calm down, and it's so much more apparent in electronics than it is in the real natural world. So you can see why your body is a little bit more on edge. It's having to deal with slightly more stuff coming in at it. Now, because of that, your stress level is way higher, which means that any little trip will bump you over your coping line, right? Now, if you think about it, all those hundreds of years ago, your coping line would have been the same, but your stress would have been way down there, right? We'll go with there because, or else you can't see it. Now, if you made a little trip, you'd only jump up a little bit, and then you'd go back down, right? But if you made a really, really big mistake, you'd go above the line, and it would know that you needed to have this little voice come in, okay? Now, if you've got a mental health issue, you're probably right there most of the time because your brain is coping with stuff either trauma-related or it's biologically not working in the same way as a neurotypical brain, or it's processing things at a much higher rate of stress. There's a lot of different ways that it can happen. But you're up there, right? Okay? So nothing at all can make you just go up there a little bit. That's when the voice comes in. So you can see how it comes a lot more common nowadays and why it's not necessarily accurate. Because your voice is gonna say things that are just gonna change that little jump, because that's the thing that needs to be fixed in its idea, right? Fixed. It's just that little bit. Really, it should be down here and it shouldn't matter at all. If it was something huge, desert island, yeah, you might want to fix it, right? But now, just this little bit. So, that's not great. How do I deal with it? Because it's not fun. It's kind of horrifying. Now, just as a precursor, if it is super, super, super overwhelming, I remove myself from any situation. I make myself in the most comfortable place that I can be, so I go to bed. And that sounds so unhealthy. But effectively, if I'm in bed, I can't upset anybody else. I can't do bad things. You know, I don't know what basically, the trigger warning I can't do it. So, I'm in bed, I'm comfortable, and I'm being lazy and unproductive. But in my head, that's like, you know, we're in someplace soft and warm. That's a really good argument to not get out of bed, right? Whereas if I was doing stuff, if I was wandering around, it would be a lot easier for me to stop doing that other stuff that's productive that I don't care about because I'm depressed or up there with the stress, and instead use my trigger warning, you know? So I sit in bed in the comfiest place I can, trying to forget. And that is not the healthiest option, but it does make my life just a little bit safer, so that matters. Safety first, right? Now, what I do, what I've developed now, is almost comical. It might seem ridiculous, but I'm telling you about it because maybe it'll help you. And it's ridiculous because I acknowledge that other little voice is there, but I also say, that is just a voice. Now, part of what I've learned to do is separate myself from any thoughts or feelings that I have, which is hard, but it's a part of mindfulness. Basically, you say, I am not my thoughts or feelings. I am simply an individual experiencing these thoughts and feelings, and then your reaction isn't automatic. Your reaction can be chosen, right? So you can be sad, but what is your reaction to that? Make sense? Now, obviously, we have an automatic reaction, and the automatic reaction might be that voice in your head, but you also have a choice. Do you want to listen to that voice, or do you want to make up your own mind about something else? That voice isn't necessarily true. It might feel like it's coming from you. It might feel like it's the most, sense-made voice that it possibly can be, but it's not really you. It's coming from this evolutionary stage, right? And you realize, actually, the little thing that tripped that wire, that's not the big picture, so I don't need to listen to that voice. I can take this in a different direction. The other thing, so that's part of it, but what that means is that you're saying that voice isn't you. That voice comes from the past, comes from the stressors, comes from whatever. It's not you. What that means is you can choose to listen to it or not. And it's really hard if you just say, I'm not going to choose to listen to this, because it's kind of persistent, it keeps saying it. But what I've ended up doing, which is why it sounds ridiculous, is arguing back. And I'm not a very conflict-driven person, but in this case, effectively, I become a year 7? I don't know. It's very much that argument of, no, you are, right? Which sounds, again, ridiculous. But let's take it this way. You go to the mirror and the voice in your head goes, wow, you're ugly. Or it compares you to a super skinny supermodel or whatever else. Now, it might go, oh, like for me, it'll say something about my jaw or something really specific. And, you know, I go, it's a voice in my head, okay? So when it says my voice, my face doesn't fit, or my face is ugly, or whatever, that voice doesn't even have a face, okay? When it wants to target my friends, when it says your friends don't really like you, well, at least I have friends, regardless of whether they like me or not. People actually know I exist. Do people know you exist? No, they don't, because you're just a voice in my head. Sounds ridiculous, but it's kind of hard to take it seriously after that. I mean, when it's coming at you, trying to like make you make these horrible decisions or unhealthy behaviors or coping mechanisms, it's really hard to agree with something when your first thought about it, when it goes, wow, you're really ugly, you should do X, Y, and Z, or you don't deserve whatever, and you go, you don't even have a face. It's really hard to like take its advice because it seems ridiculous. Kind of helps me. Who knows if it'll help you? I'm gonna end this there because honestly, I don't know how helpful this is gonna be. Love you lots. You're part of the world. Bye.